You know what? Out of the dozens of trolls that I have tore a new ass in my comment section, I pray to God that none of them are like Loverboy. So Girlhouse tells the story of a group of co-eds living together in a high-tech house that is built for a 24-hour X-rated cam girl show when they piss off the wrong viewer. Alright guys, welcome to another patron-sponsored review. This review is brought to you by Tyler Trigg, one of my very valued patrons. He has been very adamant about wanting me to check out this movie, Girlhouse. To be honest with you, I've never heard it before, and all I can say, which is gonna kind of spoil the direction I'm gonna be going in this review, thank you so much for this recommendation, Tyler. So when I first look at the premise of Girlhouse, surrounding co-eds, a bunch of cam girls, a slasher eventually is going to come into this, a guy's going to go nuts, try to kill all of them, I was thinking it was going to be more on the low-budget, exploitative type of slasher. It's going to be lots of tits, lots of blood, probably not that meaningful of a story, probably not that great of acting, and shame on me for putting such low expectations on this movie, because this is a genuine surprise. The first thing that I really liked about Girlhouse is the approach that they took to tell their story. Not very many horror movies, especially slashers to be honest with you, really take the time to tell a story and have story as their main goal with their movie. We get a really capable protagonist in Kylie. She's kind of the good girl. She goes into Girlhouse with, you know, the right intentions, quote unquote. Her father dies. She doesn't really want her mother to have the burden of paying for her school, so she goes to do this to make big money fast, to take the burden off of her grieving mother. It's a really good motivation to get her into this Girlhouse and kind of still keep her as the likable, you know, virgin if you're a fan of Cabin in the Woods, while all the other characters in the Girlhouse kind of take on the role of kind of the horny co-ed, the slutty co-ed, the bookworm co-ed, while she remains your protagonist. And her storyline, her personality, the whole storyline with the boy that she has interest in and he has interest in her because he knows her from high school and all of a sudden he sees her in his campsite and goes, holy shit, that's Kylie? I think that's a fantasy that pretty much any guy would have, to be honest. You have a girl who's fine as hell that you really had a crush on, a fascination with in high school. You never had the balls to approach her or tell her about it. And all of a sudden, years later, you're in college and you see her on this nude site and you're reunited. But in all seriousness, I was actually really invested in the relationship between Kylie and Ben. I was curious how things were going to go between them, how things were going to go when she found out that he knew about Girlhouse. Is he going to be able to accept her for who she is, or is the Girlhouse thing too much? For a slasher movie, I was pretty damn invested in the romance side of it. Pretty rare. And as this movie goes into its third act, Kylie does really good at filling that traditional final girl role. She really becomes kind of the strong character that you know she can be. She starts to take on the killer head on. She starts to use her mind against him, which is something that you don't see in slashers very often. Usually it's riddled with bad and stupid decisions, and whenever you get somebody that's making smart decisions, you're like, yeah, get that motherfucker. And she does good at being that character. Keeping with characters, one of the other big positives of this movie is the killer, just simply titled Loverboy. That is his online handle in this Girlhouse chat room. We get a nice little creepy origin for him as a kid. The whole movie takes its time, kind of a dual storyline. You get Kylie and Ben's storyline, and you have the storyline involving Loverboy and his really secluded life and his really need to be kind of accepted by these girls in Girlhouse. They're kind of his, you know, living vicariously through this website. He's kind of the girlfriends that he never had. And even though he's a psycho, to a degree, you sympathize with him. You understand why he starts to go nuts. You understand whenever the thing that is breaking point, you understand why that's the breaking point.
Sorry, Loverboy. You just missed me.
You really are a pathetic freak.
And it's really rare that you get a slasher movie that you can kind of sympathize with the killer while fearing them completely, because this dude is pretty creepy, especially in the third act of the movie when it goes full-on slasher and he actually has this female Texas Chainsaw style mask. It is a really cool mask and somehow does not feel like a Texas Chainsaw ripoff. That is the true achievement. And let me tell you, Loverboy fucks some shit up. There is some serious gore, there is some disturbing shit in the third act of this movie, and for a slasher movie, that is so important. I will say it time and time again, no slasher should ever be PG-13. Ever. Stop it. And if you're well versed in your rap artists or Ben Affleck directed movies, you're gonna recognize the guy that plays Loverboy. It is Slaine. Now, I'm not a rap fan, but he's a pretty popular rap artist from what I gather. I recognize him as the guy who had a small part in Gone Baby Gone, and he also had a small part in The Town. He's a friend of Ben Affleck and Matt Damon. They grew up together in Boston or something like that. Pretty cool little story there, but he's actually really good in this role. It's a minimalistic acting because he's not really supposed to say too much. He just kind of has to emote with his eyes and emote with his body language and everything. And with that side of his character, I feel like he does really good. He really conveys this broken, hurt person that's just looking for acceptance wherever he can find it. And whenever it gets to the scary shit, to the slasher shit, to the fuck this guy's chasing me down a hallway shit, he does really good with that stuff. That's where his acting really shines, because this guy could probably play Leatherface or some other big, gigantic, scary bastard, and he's gonna make that thing scary. And I guess I'll throw this in there. If you're a fan of the Friday the 13th style slashers where there's tons of talent on screen, you're not gonna be disappointed with Girlhouse. But I will say, one thing that kind of minorly annoyed me on that subject, I'm gonna go ahead and take my little pervert moment here, so forgive me, fast forward if you don't wanna hear this side of me, as if I've never shown it before, but when you have the main character, Kylie, and the entire premise when she comes into Girlhouse is she's like the most gorgeous thing that they have ever had inside Girlhouse. Even though there's tons of gorgeous girls inside of Girlhouse, somehow this girl next door quality to her is like a unicorn. Oh my God, we've got this in Girlhouse. And yet somehow she is the only character in this entire fucking movie that shows absolutely no nudity whatsoever. Damn! But there's hope. Watch American Reunion.
Very pretty. Oh my God! Holy shit! What?
Another element of this movie I really enjoyed is just really the concept of Girlhouse itself. Not only is it kind of a cool concept for a setting for a horror movie, but the entire concept of having this house that is totally secured. It's in a location that nobody can find. There's security guards present at all times. There's people watching on the cameras, not only security people, but horny guys around the entire US, the entire world actually, watching these girls to see every single bloody event in this third act. And it totally gets flipped on its head when you get a character that is a professional computer hacker, knows all of this shit, can just log in a few minutes and find out the location of Girlhouse, figure out how to operate the doors, the security cameras, and he can just take over this place and totally take that secure feeling that these girls have and use it against them. That was a nice little twist. And like most of the classic slashers, there's actually kind of an underlying message beneath the movie, which is something that the Friday the 13th, the Nightmare on Elm Streets and everything were, you know, kind of had a calling card for. Nightmare on Elm Street, don't be too lazy. Friday the 13th, don't fuck, don't do drugs. You get to Girlhouse, and it's about treating people the way that you would want to be treated. The golden rule, you know, don't treat somebody differently because of the way that they look. Don't shit on people because you're on this high and mighty horse. I'm the most gorgeous thing in the world, so you're all beneath me. I like that little throwback feeling to this, and it kind of gives that classic feel to some of those 80s and 70s slashers that had that underlying message. You don't see that too much anymore with slasher movies. You see that more in movies like Get Out, Split, stuff like that. So nice little touch there.
Your girl going hard, make her jeans fall off. Cause you ain't doing nothing, make the woman feel special. And you don't even be in VIP cause they don't let you. So how you gonna grill me just because I'm shit?
Now going into my negatives for Girlhouse, I really don't have too many. I thought this movie was actually pretty damn good for what it was. The one small annoyance while I was talking about how cool Slaine's performance was as Loverboy, the minimalistic take that they took on the character, I feel like they kept it a little bit too minimalistic. Now don't get me wrong, like I said, he does really good with emoting a lot of his emotions without speaking, but the very few lines that they give this character, I feel like they could have done better if they gave him a few more lines. His calling card towards the end kind of becomes him staring at him and saying, "Not nice." Like they're not nice to him. Okay, you could have done more with the character, I think. You could have given him more scary dialogue. I think it could have been even creepier if he was just talking and telling these women why he's pissed off while he's chopping off their fingers and shit like that. But that's just my take. And really my only other negative for this movie is I feel like the role of the Ben character in the last third, maybe the last half of the movie kind of becomes useless. He kind of becomes the person who's trying to get a hold of the police and trying to find the location of Girlhouse so that he can come save her while everybody's seeing the terror that's going on these live webcams. And without spoiling what happens, basically everything that he accomplishes amounts to nothing because he could have just stayed there and watched the whole thing in his computer and we would have gotten the same exact conclusion at the end. So I would have liked for a little bit more of a creative use of that character, or like some kind of maybe a tragic death or something like that. I don't know. I'm a little bit dark-minded.
Somebody is underneath to kill everybody!
He's putting on a show.
But beyond that, guys, I think for what it was, Girlhouse is a pretty damn good modern slasher. You don't get too many slashers nowadays, period, but you definitely don't get any that has a lot of the callbacks to some of the great slashers that we know and love, like really good kills, a lot of gore, an interesting killer that they really dive into, some underlying message that kind of adds something to the horror of the movie. All of that was executed really well. I enjoyed Girlhouse, and I think you will enjoy it as well. So if you're a fan of slashers, you're kind of having a dry spell, you want something new to sink your teeth into, definitely check out Girlhouse. Go out and buy it. So what did you guys think of Girlhouse? Did you enjoy Loverboy as the killer? Did you find him scary? Did you like how they dove into his character throughout the movie? Or do you feel like they should have just had all of the gore and the carnage candy throughout the entire runtime instead of taking more of a storytelling aspect with the slasher? Put all of your thoughts on Girlhouse down in the comment section below and we will talk about it. Please like and share this video. Hit that subscribe button if you're not already a subscriber. If you want to check out my social media links down in the video description below, you can check out Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter, including my Patreon page, which is the greatest way to give back to this channel, to support this channel, to help it grow, and get awesome exclusive privileges like Tyler's in choosing a movie for me to review. So check all that out, guys, and if you want to check out some more of my videos, you can check out a few more by clicking right over here.